I'm going to go ahead and call the names as they're listed, which looks like, yeah, it's alphabetical. So I'm going to call folks' names. If you can just unmute yourself and let me know if you're here. I'm now looking at an attendance sheet and not the screen, so do unmute yourself if you can. So Lori Babinski.
Emily, she's getting in right now. Hopefully she'll be here soon if you want to try again in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Miss Sirio.
Here.
Jeremy Dean.
I'm here. Hi.
Thank you. Hello, Jeremy. Francesca. All right. Renee Goddess Johnson. Chris Herlihy. Mr. Hummel.
Here, thank you.
Sorry, I have no ability to say Ted Hummel. I just have to call you Mr. Chris Moore. Matthew Peters.
Here.
Hello, Matt. Lauren Rosenberg.
I'm here. Yeah.
Thank you. Lauren Rosenberg. Scott Stewart.
I'm here.
Thank you, Scott. Councilor Thibodeau. Right. Judy Watson. Trevor Watson. And Leah Whalen. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Emily,
yes.
Chris Herlihy is in the attendees queue. So
it looks like Lauren
if somebody who is a co-host could just promote them into the Zoom meeting, they could join us. But I'm not a co-host, so it's got to be either Janet or I think Mark is the other co-host. He's here.
And Lauren as well. Thank you. Okay, I just want to remind folks, I think you probably know by now, but just the procedures for using Zoom, how we're going to conduct this meeting. So to speak, use the raise your hand feature, which can be found either by selecting participants at the bottom of the participant screen or in the sidebar, or on the pull-down menu found by selecting the 3 dots in your video window. And I will aim to call on folks as they raise their hand. And then when you're done speaking, if you can press the lower your hand button, so I know that you don't have, we know you don't have a follow-up question. I wanted to then go to the minutes and see if folks had a chance to look at the minutes and if there are any questions or changes or otherwise comments on the minutes. All right, seeing as there look like there are no comments, we will move on. And I think with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Mark to walk us through the agenda.
Great. Thank you very much, Emily. So I just want to confirm there's a Lauren in the attendees. Is that intended to move into the panelist?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Glad you're joining us tonight. We'll be efficient as we move through our agenda here. There are 3 primary content areas we're going to try to get through. One is the phasing scenarios discussion. The second one is a floor plan update, and then the third is communication update. And if we hopefully we'll have plenty of time to get through that. And so with as Emily stated, if you've got questions as we move through, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, and she'll call on you. And if it's something that I can answer, I will. If it's something another person can answer, I'm sure Emily will direct it to the appropriate person. So without further ado, we're going to start. So one of the things that we've looked at carefully, particularly with this school, is how on earth are we going to construct the renovations while the school is occupied, or in general around the times that it's occupied. And so that is challenging in any school environment, but even more so with an open concept like Reiche. And so normally what we try to do is create a swing space and then move people out of an area into the swing space, renovate that area, and then shift people around to create an additional area that needs to be renovated. And you sort of move your way through the building doing that until the whole area is renovated. The other options are you can move the entire operation somewhere else and renovate the building and then move everyone back in. And that's actually happened in the past where people have taken and put a school in, and we've even seen it in an old big box store where they actually set up classrooms in an old big box store and do that. And then the other option is to work in times when the building isn't occupied. And so that would be, for instance, trying to get construction done during the summer prior to students and faculty or staff coming back in the fall. We originally were hopeful that we could look at trying to get as much work done during the summer construction seasons, and we looked at the possible pre-construction seasons. We reached out to some experts in the field to understand the logistical reality of being able to do that. They came back and said it's really not feasible. You don't have enough time in the 8 weeks or so in the summertime in order to get that done. And so we looked at a scenario where we do create swing space by installing 6 portable classrooms, so 3 modular structures, where we then can start to move sections of the building out into those and then renovate areas while that is going on, and then and it would sort of be a sequence that, and we'll walk you through the logic behind this sequencing now. So summers are the time when you can get a greater amount of work done because, again, there's not concerns about the interruptions in the work, and you don't have the restrictions around working in an occupied building. And so the first summer, what we're showing in that summer of 2021, next summer, it would be to install the portables and then to go up to the second floor and build non-classroom. When we say non-classroom, it's the area that you see dashed walls and systems. And so it's a relatively smaller amount of work that could be done in the period of time in the summer months. And so it would be creating the art and music rooms, and then we have computer resource rooms and some small group instruction spaces may be part of it, but it's really concentrating more on what I'll call the top of the page spaces around where the new art and music rooms would be created. In doing so, we would also have to create the health office spaces as well. So those will move over to that side of the building. And I know, and we'll go through sort of an evaluation of spaces in the floor plan coming up, but this simply is about the diagram of how we would move. So that's the first summer. And then what we do is we take a section of the rooms offline. And so in the fall of that year, we would carve out an area of the building that is shown dashed in blue, and it's interchangeable. Right now, what we're doing is just saying that there's the idea of taking 6 classrooms and those programs, put them into portables, and then renovating those spaces. And each, what we do is we've divided up the work so that the 12 weeks or so of the fall would occur in this area, and then we would flip during the winter break, and then the subsequent areas on the first level we would do in the spring of that year. And so that would occur in that first academic year, and then these classrooms would be permanently online then after that first year of construction. So going into the second summer, what we would do is renovate the lower area of the floor plan. So this is the first floor of the Reiche, and so that turquoise dashed outline is work that would occur that second summer, so that in the fall of 2022, the first level is all done. And then we would then move to the second level classrooms. And so remember that the area that is shown shaded has already been renovated. And so it's just the classrooms that would be on the perimeter that right now are your, many of them are just constructed with your movable partitions and bookcases. And so we would renovate the lower area dashed shown right here during the fall of 2022. And then in the spring of 2023, we would complete the second story renovations. And so by the spring or by the summer of 2023, the building is completely renovated on the school side. And so that summer you would move everything in, and that fall you'd start up and things would be complete. So that it seems simplistic. It's not. One of the concerns we've talked about is where we put the modular units and the sacrifice that means on the site. And so there are two areas that we identified that have the potential to support the modulars. One of them has an impact on parking, and so that's never an easy aspect. There's an acute demand for parking normally everywhere on the peninsula, and certainly these parking spots are in high demand right here. And so that's one area where it's a relatively flat surface, and it temporarily and it's not occupied by a building. The other one we're looking at is over in the play near the playground or the play areas of the site, and that's shown over here. And so the next level of evaluations is to see could we get all three modulars in the one location or the other. And we'd like to know from this group, because you folks have sort of the most direct connection, the perceived impact of either of those locations too. The other thing that we also are mindful of is in looking at trying to do these renovations while you're occupying the building, even if we put good solid construction barriers, and we will, that separate the area that's being renovated from the rest of the operation, there's still noise that's generated. It's a pretty significant amount of construction activity that's taking place. And so one of the things we're doing is looking at shifting the work schedule so that it occurs starting in the afternoon, so that their construction doesn't actually occur during school hours, that it's shifted to afternoons, evenings, and that would minimize the impact of construction activities on school operations. And so that's our current thinking about how we would proceed with the phasing. And so with that, are there questions or comments about the strategy to phase the project?
I see a question from Jeremy. Oh, sorry, Matt, I'll get you next.
Oh, you and me now?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask, one thing was looking at the drawing that you've got up on the screen right now, those areas don't look like they would hold 6 classrooms based on the other drawings that we've been looking at and the size of the building. So is that meant to be accurate, or is that just a demonstrative drawing?
Yeah, Jeremy, to your point exactly. It's just meant to say here are different areas of the site, and so you're absolutely right. The doing 6 might require that this rectangle has to extend all the way from here down to here, and we're not sure we could even get all of them on one location. We may have to do 2 on one side and 1 over on the other side.
Okay, thank you. So that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. And then one other thing I just wanted to say about the layout of the upstairs, when I was listening to Ms. Villani talking about the art classroom, and I was looking at that drawing, and I was kind of waiting until we had a get more specific drawing coming up. But on that second floor, I think that art classroom has to be on the corner where the music is now, because art requires as much natural light as possible, and that corner is going to, even though it's northwest facing, northeast facing, it's going to still give you the best natural light for the art activities. So I just wanted to put that in there. I think it's would be so good move there. So.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I think those are, you know, approximately equal sized spaces, and they could easily interchange and just flip where the kiln door is and the storage room door is. So that's certainly something we can look at. And the other question that came up on regarding the art room was it larger than or smaller rather than the current one? And we're happy to report, I think that it was this is currently about 12 square feet more than what you currently have for your art program. So that was good news.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Matt Peters.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I had two questions. One on the phasing, and it's a little moot if we are able to do most of the work in the evenings or on the weekends, but I was thinking about as children move through the school between between the first year and the second year, and it may just add a layer of complications, but making sure that they're not directly adjacent to the work both years, I think is just something to, you know, like I said, if we can do it in evenings, weekends, and holidays, then great. But if that does get changed due to budget or other scheduling things, I think it'd be great to have it be equitable. And then the second comment, I was thinking about the pods. And we do have a lot of real estate in that the bus pull off. And I wonder if the neighborhood and the city would be open to turning Brackett into a one-way street going to the right, which would then kind of allow the bus just to really just pull over on the side of the road, but not necessarily pull off. We might be able to place a classroom block in that bus pull off area. So that's just an idea, just so we don't lose playground and parking on site. It doesn't really impact the flow of the street much, I would think. So
we're going to be meeting with an introductory meeting on the project with the planning department, Matthew. So maybe we can start that dialogue there and see what possibilities might be available.
Yeah, you really wouldn't lose any parking. The cars on the other side of the street would just turn around for parking. It really wouldn't impact parking in the neighborhood, just flow of the driveway. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Lauren.
I just wanted to second Jeremy's comment about the art room. I agree that it should change position to get more of the natural light. And then I was just also curious about the timeline in construction, the difference between the different phasing options. Like if you had a more aggressive approach, how much does that cut back on the timeline for construction?
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I think the issue that we ran into is that when we looked at trying to do it in summers, it actually didn't save us time, because what it ended up doing was it ended up extending it, because we're trying to break it up into smaller chunks that would only happen during the summers. And so it actually ended up being 4 summers instead of 3 summers. And so that was a detriment to the schedule there. A more aggressive option of moving students out of the building entirely to allow it to proceed would about half the length of the project. And so that would be preferable to do it that way. We're just not, we were unable to come up with a location where you would move an entire school and service that population to allow this to occur.
Okay. Okay.
Lauren, are you all set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Ms. Julia?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Renee.
Hi. I wanted to just give some feedback. You'd asked for it during the presentation. If we had a preference of where we want portables, we would prefer the playground to the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you. That's wonderful. All right.
Any other questions on what has been presented so far? I see Jeremy. And Matt.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to second what Ms. Serio said, that I think that's the preferable location. I'm sure the staff has a much stronger opinion about parking than I do, but I think that area of the playground, that's where kids play soccer in the dirt there, and it's while they like it during certain seasons, a lot of the school year, of course, that's just totally covered in snow, so it won't be any kind of discomfiture at all. So I just want to put that out there. Thanks.
And Matt, did you have something else?
Yeah, just something quick around whether or not you've explored with a potential contractor pool of really loading a lot of, doing a lot of work on a floor. So you're basically trying to do just one whole floor in the summer. I know that is a lot of work and be a lot of bodies, but it would also reduce the kind of need to do sound and dust attenuation during the school year, so there might be a little bit of savings there. But I just think, yeah, if you could just pile bodies in there to do the work, you might be able to just get it done in the summer. But maybe that's optimistic.
Yeah, I'll quickly respond to that. And I know Lori has also had her hand up. She's using her traditional hand, not the blue hand on the screen here. But so we actually reached out to a construction advisor that looks at logistically, how much could get done in a summer. The other concern we had in looking at a scenario like that, in addition to the fact that they came back and said, no, there's actually just too much work and infrastructure that has to happen in too compressed a period of time. And the concern we had was, what happens if it doesn't complete in the summer, and then all of a sudden, what's the contingency plan in the fall if it's not ready, and you've got students and teachers ready to come back, and so then you're kind of caught in a scenario that's that makes everything that much more difficult.
Ms. Babinski, sorry, I didn't see your actual hand.
Okay, sorry, and thank you. I just have a timeline question. So you're starting upstairs in that interior space the first summer, and then moving downstairs, and just for the classrooms, and just thinking about safety. Is there a reason that you don't start downstairs by the entry the first summer, and then continue along with the classrooms and then move upstairs?
Yeah, the thinking in that was that while we aren't doing their interior renovation space downstairs during the first summer, there's more intensity of work in the lower area. And we also need to create the addition of the conference room and the expansion of the admin area in that first summer. So those are constructed so that by the time we get to the second summer, we'll be able to connect all of the new entrance. So the whole new entrance is done at that time. And so it's really sequenced in a way to allow us to complete this whole new entry at the time that we're doing the renovation of that area. And we can't do that until we build this, and it'll take more than the summer to get that addition added onto the building.
Okay, thank you.
Just looking at the clock, I think we'll move on, and maybe Mark, we should talk about communications and the new website.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And just a reminder, maybe Mark, at the end, you can remind people how to get in touch with you if they have additional feedback.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And so what we want to do is share with you the launch of the Portland Public Schools BFOF website. And so we're pretty excited about this. This is the incredibly hard work of our Emily Waugh, who helped pull all this together. And so if you actually, it's live right now. So if anyone actually goes to their browser, they can actually type in the address of ppsbfofprojects.com, and they'll get to the website. I'll actually bring it up here. And so you can see it. So this is actually on the web right now. And we think it's going to facilitate finding information much, much easier for you folks. And so at the top, you have the content areas of meetings and project schedules, meeting materials, project update sheets, floor plans and photos, the frequently asked questions, and then a contact button. And so So this, and those are replicated down here as well. And so, for instance, if you wanted to know what the minutes were from the last BLAC meeting, you could simply click on the meeting minutes, and you'll find the minutes if you go down to the building level advisory committee meetings. And so the last Reiche one of May 28th is right here. So you can immediately click and bring up the minutes. You will also find the meeting agendas and then the presentations that we give. So all of that is nicely located right here. There are just the meetings itself and the schedule. So if you just click on the meetings and project schedule, you'll see all the meetings that are scheduled coming up. And so we'll have, right now we're showing the August meetings, September, October meetings, and then there's the full project schedule that we've been sharing. And there's also a list of the different committee members too. So that is also a helpful guide. And then we also have a frequently asked questions. And so there are general questions that relate to the total project itself. And then there are by school questions. And so the ones that we've heard over the course of our meetings with you and the community forum, and we've compiled those into this list here. And so it has the question and response on it. And so while there still will be postings to the board docs, we think this is a much easier place to find everything that you need. And so if there's a question, it's the latest and greatest information. It's all in one easy to navigate website, and we'll continue to update it. There will be a link from the district's website. So if you go to the Portland Public Schools homepage, you'll find eventually, and I'm not sure if it's up yet, but you'll find a link to this website from that page itself. So so we again think this is going to be a tremendous help in allowing folks to find the information and be able to share it with others.
Mark, can I just say really quickly, there is also a contact section in here, so that could be the avenue through which people can reach out to us if they have information or more comments.
Absolutely. So clicking on the contact brings up an opportunity to send an email, and then that email gets to the project team at Harriman, as well as the folks in the district.
Awesome.
So with that, we have a little bit of time. Are there any questions on the websites? One thing that was discussed at the last meeting was to do a press release so that it's out there and everyone's aware of its presence. And so that's something we're going to look to do as well.
Maybe I can jump in and say, yeah, if folks know that you're a member of the committee and are, ask you questions about the status of the project, please do help get the word out that this website exists and will be a good resource for people to learn more and understand the status of the project.
Good. Well, the other content area that we're going to cover tonight was the update of the floor plans. It's awfully difficult to see them at this scale. And so, we have done probably about a 75% through going in a detailed evaluation of the spaces. And so now that you have the website, you can actually drill right down onto the floor plans from the website itself and evaluate them. But we recognize that we don't have every space yet accounted for, that we have heard feedback, for instance, that we have a classroom missing and we think we have the space for it. We just have to, again, go through and evaluate the rooms that we do have shown and whether or not we have the correct number of rooms in different areas. And so I know that there's some a little bit of work left to do on ours, but the general layout of the spaces is what we want folks to sort of be able to react to. The idea that we're building equitably sized classrooms with the breakout rooms distributed on the interior side, so that you do have pull-out space or small group instruction that can occur in those. And essentially that's just using space that was part of the circulation in the building. The pre-K and kindergarten rooms are sized appropriately for those programs. And then so we have administration. So we're really trying to maximize the perimeter of the building. The classrooms are arranged in sort of a diagrammatically the way that they are right now, with classrooms around the two sides that we're showing with the art wall. And so those are on the exterior of the building. We've shown spaces that aren't that still receive some amount of natural light through light wells and skylights in the building, but they're more interior. So a computer classroom that doesn't want direct light moves to the interior, but trying to get as much exposure to the exterior as we possibly can. And really enjoyed the discussion tonight about flipping art and music, and we can easily do that. We were thinking we wanted music on the sort of extremity of the building just because of the sound, but I think it's buffered nicely by toilets for the most part, and we can look carefully at the areas that it's not, to make sure that that music, the noise from that program has a little or minimal impact to the adjacent spaces. And with that is largely the update that we had for everyone. Going forward, our next meeting is in August, and the topics that we're going to start looking at there will be starting to look at what the interior spaces look like, as well as what the exterior addition entrance area looks like. And so we'll start to actually see three-dimensionally how those are start to take shape. And so it'll start to really look at the design of it. We'll have the floor plans dialed in at that time, and so we'll look forward to your feedback at that time as well.
I see a question from Jeremy. Go ahead.
Hi. Sorry, Mark. So those will be, just briefly, but those will be like 3D renders that we can, will it be like images, or are they things we can actually walk around in?
So we can do both. We can actually, we'll do a virtual environment. We kind of move around through the building, and we'll do that, as well as we'll provide you some still images. That's a little easier sometimes than the virtual touring through. So we'll do both.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or feedback? Y'all are a very efficient group. Okay, so I think if there aren't additional questions, again, noting that our next meeting is on August 27th at 6 p.m. So scheduled now is a 45-minute meeting. And in the meantime, check out the website, but you can always come to me if you have questions, and I will help answer the questions, help direct your questions to the appropriate folks. And thanks so much, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful summer, and I'm so excited to see actual the next step, the interior. So we have a lot to look forward to at the end of August. So thanks so much, Mark and Emily. The website is amazing and will be a great resource. So thank you, and thanks to all the committee members. And have a great night.